Cross cover, cross cover. Hold left, go right. Hold left, go right. Hold left, go right.
I'm not going to tell you again. You guys need to leave.
This is an annual event. It started right after 9/11 when the government realized that we had to do a better job at coordination for the interagency. And since then, every year an exercise has taken place and has evolved into the Capitol Shield exercise that we have today.
Well, it's the scenario is that we have a massive earthquake that has hit the scenario. Some law enforcement emergencies, a medical emergency like the one we just saw here, an evacuation of a number of casualties. It's actually going to give us a very tough workout. It's from a military perspective, it helps the joint forces, the military forces, do everything we can to better prepare ourselves to support civilian agencies in the time of disaster.
We're good. Come on down. He's got a good leash on.
When there is an incident, it's going to start local. It'll start small.
When there is an incident, it's going to start local. It'll start small.
And whoever the first responders are, the people to get there first, whether they're military or law enforcement, it's important that we know what the role of each one of these organizations is.
Much, Trace. Let's go out to Mike Emanuel, who's live on the scene there for us in the nation's capital. Mike, what can you tell us has happened in just the last couple of minutes there?
Well, Gretchen, I heard a series of sirens go flying by. I'm in the Senate Russell office building next to the Capitol, and it's obviously quite unusual to hear all these emergency vehicles go, cruising right by the building, but we knew something was up, and then we heard some police officers say, stay away from the windows, get inside, and the warning that's being broadcast on the Senate television system here is to go inside, get away from the windows, get as far away from this possible trouble as possible. We've heard shots fired outside, but we're not clear how many and if they, in fact, hurt anybody. So it's in one of these breaking news modes where you're trying to figure out exactly what happened. And let's go to my colleague Chad Pergram, our senior Capitol Hill course producer. Chad, what do you have?
We are hearing right now that there is at least one injured Capitol Police officer, and we may very quickly here see a medevac helicopter arrive, maybe to take that person out. This happened in an area that appears to be sort of between the House and the Capitol building and Constitution Avenue, in sort of a press area where there's a lot of news conferences and things. We may very soon see a helicopter come here. They came running through the halls telling everybody to get back in their offices, get back in their offices. I stepped out to try to figure out what was going on, and they shooed me immediately back into my office. I couldn't get back in because they had locked all the doors. So this is very chaotic. The House of Representatives had just started debating a miniature spending bill here to deal with some of the government funding for the Veterans Administration. They immediately recessed, subject to the call of the chair, but there were multiple shots heard by a number of sources out here. And so we're trying to figure out what's going on, but it's very chaotic. It's been a long time since I've seen them lock down the Capitol to this degree. And the thought is shelter in place, the idea that they get people inside the building and they are actually safer there because it is chaos outside right now.
All right, Chad Pergram, our producer on the scene there. Chad, I'm seeing reports here now that at least one Capitol Hill police officer has been injured. Some reports are saying that several police officers have been injured. Do you have anything more to add to that?
Yeah, that's the best we can do at this point. I mean, there's a lot of guards that stand out by that door. There's a couple of driveways that come in, so that's usually a very heavy police presence. And so there's a lot of officers that work the actual door as you get into the Capitol. There's a guard shack there as well. Since I've been talking to you here, the Senate now has went out in recess, subject to call the chair, meaning they are out until further notice, until they are recalled, if they're going to be recalled. And again, one of the issues of paramount concern here on Capitol Hill is the safety of the staff and the members. We had an incident just a few months ago where a man who was, out of it mentally ran up the steps when there were members coming down the steps after a vote. He didn't have anything on him, but they really, took that very seriously. They tackled him toward the top of the steps. They were very concerned about that. And in July of 1998, there was a shooting here where they killed 2 Capitol Police officers. Jacob Chestnut was one of them, and an officer who was on Tom DeLay's detail at the time. He came in through a door and shot people immediately, and to that point, those were the only 2 people ever killed defending the U.S. Capitol. That was in July of 1998.
All right, Chad Pergram giving us the latest details there. Ted Williams now? Okay, let's go to Ted Williams now, because he's a former D.C. homicide detective. He would know plenty about crime going on in the D.C. area. What do you make of the situation, Ted?
From what I understand, all indications are that this is as a result of a high-speed chase that came into the Capitol area. And what our viewers must understand is that you have numerous police departments in Washington, D.C. You have the Capitol Police, you have the Metropolitan Police, you have the Federal Protective Service Police, you have the FBI. There's just numerous law enforcement agencies. And when these things happen, meaning simply if there's a high-speed chase and it's headed into the Capitol Hill area, then quite naturally the Capitol Police as well as perhaps the Park Police become engaged in these matters. And it is my understanding there may be, I'm still trying to confirm more. I was waiting for another phone call when I got your phone call to try to determine what, if anybody, who has been injured as a result of this. But it's my understanding this was a high-speed chase that came into the Capitol Hill area. And it's also my understanding that Capitol Hill itself is now in a lockdown stage.
Ted, give us a sense of the neighborhood. Susan Ferriccio, who is a reporter with the Examiner, was giving us a lay of the land in D.C. If you're not familiar with the area, that the outside neighborhood's very close to the Capitol grounds, correct?
Well, it's very close to the Capitol grounds, and the idea about this is that this is not really that far from the Navy Yard where we did have a shooting several weeks ago.
Right.
But the area here you have a lot of congressmen and senators living there on Capitol Hill in that geographic area, as well as congressional aides. It's a very mixed neighborhood. There's not really normally a great deal of violence in that neighborhood. But again, as I represented, it's my understanding that a high-speed chase brought the matter into the Capitol Hill area, and certain precautions are being taken. And as a result of that, you have numerous law enforcement agencies involved, and that is what has made it so chaotic.
All right, Ted Williams, thanks so much for your expertise. Let's go back out to